Yes, Steve.
We're paying him by the hour, so let's let's get Steve in here first to talk about both those issues, both those. Okay, well, welcome everybody. It's 101. So we have some laundry list things to work on later, but with Steve's here, let's go run into working with Steve. One about the water, possible scenario and how we're going to charge going forward, and also maybe go through the sewer upgrade report that he came up with first and see how that goes. Hi, Steve.
Sounds good.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, Steve.
good. I
It's
don't
pretty
know how
clear
I-
what you came up with. I can't believe how much it costs.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let's we'll go through it. What I did is rather than have you guys wade through, 15 pages, I just did the executive summary. So if you want to go over that.
No, that's great. Yeah.
Okay. So the very first page after the table of contents, if you guys have that handy.
Yep.
Yep.
So let's just go down through the findings. The existing pump station pumps 250 gallons a minute. And I got that information from the sewage pumps. Mike pulled the pumps, I got the model number and then checked it. So we looked at the flow rates into the pump station currently, and it's operating at about 36% of capacity. So it's got plenty of excess capacity today. So the bottom line is that no upgrade of the station is necessary at this time. From that station, there's a 6-inch force main that pumps up to the top of the intersection with School Street, and then it flows by gravity all the way to the treatment plant. Those sewers and the force main have quite a bit of capacity in them. So I don't see that as an issue. I did include a budget to do some flow monitoring, which we may want to do at some point, but I think at this point, it looks like there's plenty of capacity in the sewers. When the pump station was put in 2002, it had 300 gallon a minute pumps in it. So it had larger pumps. And at some point in the past, I'm not sure when, those pumps were replaced and the pumps that were put in are somewhat smaller. So one of the things that we had talked about before was, what's a reasonable reserve capacity to have in a pump station or any kind of treatment system. There's no fixed rule that DES has, but when it comes to treatment plants, once the treatment plant hits 80% of capacity, they ask the community to start looking at what its long-range plans are for upgrade. So applying that same, thinking to the pump station, if we say that we want to maintain a 20% reserve capacity, that means that the Ice Castles project or the Ahead Peeling Village project could connect and still maintain that capacity. I say, or the equivalent of 72 bedroom homes. And I think that's an important point because the Ahead project and Peeling Village, each one of those, they're looking at having a flow that's roughly equivalent to 60 or 70 homes. So, if those projects were down, like in the southern part of the state, probably not a big deal, but projects of that magnitude connecting to your pump station have a significant impact. So the takeaway is that either one of those projects could connect. It sounds like the White Mountain Escapes project has gone away. I haven't heard anything further from that developer, so I think he walked away from that project. But it is possible, in fact, likely that someday somebody else will come along with an interest in that parcel. So that's something to consider as well.
Yep.
So if, assuming that both the Ice Castles and the Ahead project go ahead, then the station would have to be upgraded to at least 300 gallons a minute, which I'm calling alternative 2. If we just apply alternative 2, then when those two projects connect, then there's really no reserve capacity for anybody else. So that alternative to upgrading those pumps, I had it estimated at a cost of $200,000. Now, further on in the report, towards the back, I have a breakdown, but essentially that $200,000 is much more than just putting two pumps in. Now, you could probably drop two 300-gallon-a-minute pumps down those existing slide rails, similar to the way they were before, for on the order of $30,000. The difference is that we're talking about a new control panel, which is, kind of important, and a new emergency generator, because the new pumps would be three-phase pumps. Currently, it's a single-phase system there. The difference now is that almost all of these pumps are three-phase. They're far more efficient, and it's kind of the standard 20 years later. So the takeaway from this bullet item is you could slide two pumps down there for $35,000 and get the capacity, but I think you might want to at least consider upgrade of the control panel and the emergency generator, because you're looking at a 20-year-old station. Do you have to do it? No, but it's certainly something to consider. Again, those two projects will chew up even the excess capacity from the upgrade to the 300-gallon-a-minute pumps. So, okay, now what's the next potential? I looked at two other options. One was upgrading to 435-gallon-a-minute pumps, and where that number comes from is just an estimate of total build out for the current service area. So the gravity sewer extends west just beyond Sundance Road. So if you look at the available lots, there aren't a lot, but there are a couple. That White Mountain Escapes property, they had a pretty intensive development plan there. So I estimated that you could have upwards of 435 gallons a minute flow from just the existing service area. So if you look at that, you got the same control panel, the same emergency generator, the difference being that the pumps are bigger. So you're at about $264,000. And finally, the alternative 4, which was 500-gallon-a-minute pumps, where I came up with that is I thought, if somebody were to extend the sewer line at some point in the future, you could easily go to Russell Farm Road and still gravity back to the pump station. There would be a significant investment in gravity sewer for somebody someday to do that, but it opens up quite a bit of land up there for potential service. I had not originally intended to recommend that option because, well, two things. One, somebody's going to have to spend a lot of money to extend the sewer. It's well beyond the current service area. And the land up there could be served by on-site septic systems unless somebody were to propose something pretty intensive. But I looked at it, and the difference in cost between the 435-gallon-minute pumps and the 500-gallon-minute pumps is only $4,000. It's the same generator, same control panel, same enclosure. It's just the pumps are a little bigger. So it's pretty rare that I recommend the most costly alternative, but in this case, for pretty short money, you get quite a bit more capacity in the pump station. So, that's a lot of money for somebody that's looking at this for the first time, and I'm sure you guys looked at it too and said, "Holy smokes!" But I think the takeaway is to get the station to 2021 standards and get another 20 years out of it. You're looking at spending roughly $250,000. You could replace the pumps that are there now. I know Mike has gotten some prices from vendors, and I didn't ask him what his budget numbers were, but I got the same information from the vendors, and they were saying the pumps were about $16,000 a piece. So, for $30,000, $35,000, you could replace the pumps. So, guys have questions on that?
I have just a couple of quick ones. Those pumps, they also serve as grinders.
No, they're what's called solids handling pumps. So they actually can handle up to a 3-inch solid. They do make pumps that are grinder pumps. They're not particularly efficient, and they make a new kind of pump that's the same size, goes into a 4-inch force main, but it's got a cutter head on it to cut up some of this stuff that can get caught up in the pumps. Those are a little bit more expensive, but
Right.
you know, I know you guys have had trouble with the flushable wipes. That's a pretty common problem. Those cutter heads do help with that. So, you know, it's certainly something to consider.
And the other question I have is, all our pipe sizes are okay?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That's great. Well, I think this is just a great thing so we can know what we're running into going down the road for sure.
Yeah, I
And-
think you know you want to be cognizant of the potential cost for upgrading the station when people like Ice Castles or you know, Ahead come along. I mean, Ahead is a client of mine, so I have to kind of walk a fine line here, but I want you guys to be aware of the implications of these projects to your infrastructure.
Well, I think what we've done too with the new scheme of connection fees we put in a couple of years ago, you know, a 60-room project, I just looked at it, just the sewer connection fees would be over 125,000.
Yeah.
So, and that's something, I don't know if that was in place when they were looking at it. So if you had first one come in with 60, say we get 125, and then the next one comes in with 40 or 50, another 100 or so, that would pay for this whole upgrade.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, but we know where we're at now. We know about what it would cost. And I think that's going forward. It gives us a lot of great information for sure.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I'm good with the sewer. What about the water rates? We've been hashing those over, Steve, and we've been working on the EDU thing, and something just doesn't add up in some respects. So we had thought maybe to go to pipe size like many towns do for the base rate and then do the $5 on top of that. What are your thoughts?
The pipe size or the meter size is
Yes.
kind of it's around, but I would say it's not particularly common, and it's less
Okay.
common than it used to be. I think most communities are getting away from that because there's not a direct link between the size of your meter and how much water you use.
True.
You know, I think if you want to encourage conservation and you want people to pay for what they use, just like they would with their electric meter, then you really need to base it on usage.
They,
Well,
they are going to pay what they use.
What we were doing is just talking like, say, if you have a standard 1-inch pipe going to your home, it's one rate for the base. As the pipe sizes go up, it's more, but you'd still get the like $5 per 1,000 gallon usage fee on
Yeah,
top
yeah.
of that. That we're just looking for a way to set that base rate. I don't think none of us have any problem with the $5 or whatever it is per 1,000 gallons after that. It's setting this base rate using the EDU thing really came up with some crazy numbers.
Well, it potentially does for commercial, because the way we looked at the EDUs is every residential home, every residential connection would be $192 for a base rate. So if you had a 2-unit apartment, it would be 2 times that. If you had a 3-unit apartment, it would be 3 times that. So it has some merit in terms of making sense in terms of usage.
Well, it does, I know, but I'm just using an example. We're only about $130,000 short in our budget to make this thing work, or about $100,000 short in the water budget to make it work from what we're collecting now, correct, Cheryl? Somewhere in there. If I added up the way we would calculate it according to the EDU thing we got from you, between the Ice Castles and we would be paying $160,000 more a year in water. I mean, which is just changing 2 people. So I don't know if the information you got is incorrect or the way we're figuring it out is incorrect, but that doesn't seem right. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, the ice castles is a little bit of a different animal in that they have a really high demand for a short period of time, but over the course of a year, what did you come out with for a base rate? Do you recall?
Oh, I can tell you right now, we had assumed,
Look, we kind of did it based off of meters. So like residential, we were looking at being like $200 per house for their meters.
Steve's on EDUs right now.
Oh, he
Right.
is. Oh,
So
what's their
gonna
meter size? We don't know.
I'll do a quick one for you, Steve. This is not
Give me the-
accurate.
They have a 3-inch.
What was the amount per EDU? 1790, I think.
It was
I don't
100
have my stuff with me.
It was $192 per EDU.
It was
So
100.
the idea was that a home would pay $192 or an apartment.
And so,
Right.
and you figured the homes in North Woodstock and Lincoln paid, I'm gonna use 18,000 gallons per, for this period, right?
I
You're
figured
saying
the-
18,000 gallons per EDU is what you had said.
23,000.
23, all right, so. And what was the amount per EDUs?
$192.
That makes the base rate before we charge for water, $83,000 for the ice castle.
Yeah, okay, that's not going to work, obviously.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh, I
using
agree.
them as an example instead of myself. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
no, I agree. So
So-
I think if there's two options, we can stick with the EDU approach, which essentially says that one residential home is one EDU, so 192, call it $200 a year base rate. And then the commercial rates, rather than actually looking at usage to figure EDUs, come up with something that basically gives them a break. Because
Well,
you're right.
I'm all in favor of paying for our usage for sure. Even at the $5, it's not outrageous. But if you came up with, like, say my base rate's $5,000 or something like that, or the ice castle base rate, you know what I'm saying?
So pulling some of the base rates for meters beyond residential that I've been looking at. So an instance like the ice castle, they have a 3-inch meter, so they would pay $2,100 for that base rate annually.
3-inch meter?
They have a 3-inch meter. That's what Judy said, just
That's hard to
mentioned,
believe.
right?
Okay,
They have a huge meter out there. Yes.
that's
They do.
not huge.
Well, that's what they have. It's a huge for us. I think that's the biggest one.
Okay,
So you take that 2,100 and then you add to that $5 per 1,000 gallons, they'd be paying about $67,000 annually, which is right in the range
Which
based
is
on their
not which is
right
not
based on
outrageous.
last year's usage.
Yeah.
Right. So if I ran yours, what size meter do you have?
Oh, at least a 2, I would think.
Okay, let's see.
I
Let's
thought
go
I had a
with 2.
6-inch meter, but
Oh, no.
no.
I'm just gonna run one of your
I know it's
properties.
at least a 2, Cheryl. I don't know.
Okay, we'll go with 2. So 2-inch meter would be $560 annually plus 486
I use about 3
Times
million, something like that.
5 oops, yeah, that's not coming out right. You use how much? 3 million?
About 3 million. I'm just throwing that
Okay,
out there.
1 2 3. Okay, so it'd be about 15,500 a year.
Which is about probably 3 or 4,000 more than I pay now, which is not outrageous. And when I looked at it to make the water department balance out, we needed to raise 16% more revenue from what we had corrected last year. So if we raise 16% more from whatever we're doing with these rates, we'll make the water department even.
Balanced.
Yeah, well, I would suggest perhaps the best thing to do is to say, okay, how much do you have to raise in terms of dollars? Then you look at your usage last year. And then you figure out what you're going to generate based on $5 per 1,000 gallons. And then that remaining amount of money is what you have to raise through your base rate. And
Right.
If you say the residentials are, well, if you want to do meters, that works fine. If you want to stick with EDUs, you say that the EDU, each residential unit is one EDU, so there's $200 per unit. And then you can base the commercials on some fraction of that, because obviously paying a $60,000 or $70,000 water bill is a little over the top, I think.
That's just the base without the
Right.
usage. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I even think maybe the base rate for commercial should be higher than the 1,200. I'm not opposed to that either. So, but I don't know what that. I think maybe working it backwards, like Steve's talking about, might work out well.
I'll tackle that.
When it comes to usage, we're gonna look 2 or 3 years down the road and find out that 2020, because of the situation, was a bit of an aberration.
It hasn't
think you could-
changed much, but looking at it, the numbers, Gil. We've been looking
Okay.
at those numbers, and it hasn't changed an awful lot.
No.
Yeah, everything else changed in 2020. I just didn't know if that was gonna be an issue too.
I think
Yeah, I
the
would say
first,
look at 2019 and 2020 and kind of take an average water use.
I think this first year, when we change it, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see what happens, and we're probably going to end up adjusting it the next year.
A lot of times
Depending
what
on
you
what
see
happens.
is that people they'll try to save water when you go to $5 per 1,000 gallons, but then they realize that, it's really not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, they don't take a shower as much, or they don't wash their car, and they realize it doesn't really make that much difference. So what happens is it creeps back up to the same usage. Most people, they don't waste water.
Okay. All right, we're back
Sounds
to
good.
the drawing board a bit here to come up with a few more scenarios, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind working on that and maybe sending it off to Steve to take a
Okay.
look at.
Some different scenarios. That's great.
Yeah, does that work? Does that work
Yeah.
for you, Steve?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we just gotta let me know what the amount of money is that you're trying to raise, because I think we had targeted
140,000.
440,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's the
About
number, that's half the battle right there.
Yeah.
And you take your usage for 2019 or 20 or the average, assume $5 per 1,000 gallons, and that whatever's left is what you have to raise from base rates.
Mhm.
Well, and I think this year, actually, we need to raise 484.
That's including
the budget.
both. That's both. That includes the notes that the town voted to pay off a year ago. I mean, bottom line is those notes that we didn't pay off are subsidizing the town's cash flow. And the water users, I don't think should have to do that when they're doing this budget. The town voted 2 years ago to pay those notes off, and we have not.
Last year.
Yeah.
Just last year.
That's just my point. They're
Okay.
paying,
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be a big enough hit for water and sewer users as it is. And that $700,000 or $800,000 in slush fund money the town has used to finance themselves going forward the last 10 or 15 years. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just,
I'll take a look at that.
I thought.
I'll run the difference.
The only other thing I'll say before we drop this is, you don't want to cut it too close, because, it'd be nice to have a little bit of a buffer in there. So if the water usage does go down, you're not going back to the voters again saying, oh, we got to raise the rates. It's better to hit them with the hammer at once.
Yeah, I think you're right.
If you overbill a
I don't
little
think
bit.
the water's going to be too much of a hammer, Steve. It's the
Sewer.
waste. It's the sewer. It's going to be a huge hammer. It's going to double probably, or go up by. at least 30-40%. I would think.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look at it, Cheryl, once you have it done.
because once we get the water done, I think it's easier to transition to the sewer pretty much.
Yes.
Now, off the top of your head, Steve, is there a percentage of water in and water out? You know, like 95% of the water that goes into the house comes back out in the sewer, or 98 or?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty much 95%, I would say. I mean, the only water that doesn't come back is when you wash your car or you water the lawn or the garden, right? Everything else comes back. So, you know, depending on the community, it might be less, but generally speaking, what goes in comes out. And
And I
you'll
think what
find
you're
that-
saying, yeah, what you're saying last year, Steve, was that you can't really say, oh, I got a sprinkler in my lawn, that shouldn't count, or I do this or that, that shouldn't count. If we go down that rat hole, it would be a mess.
Right, down south, where they obviously have water issues greater than ours, a lot of communities actually have 2 meters and 2 billing systems. So you pay for irrigation water separate, but that's not common in New England. And although if you were to meter your sewer flow, it would be something less than your water meter flow coming into the house. Generally, the way the sewer bills are sent out is very similar to water, where you pay a base rate plus usage.
Right.
Usage is based on the water meter.
Yep.
So there's an incentive there to save where you can, because you not only save on your water bill, you also save on your sewer bill. And in both cases, there's a direct link between the amount of water that you pump and treat and the cost.
Sure.
Scott, you have a 2-inch meter.
I do. Okay. Just seeing the big pipes in there, like, looks like more than 2.
Or a 2-inch line, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks, Steve. That's great information.
All right, anything else?
No,
All right.
we're
Guys,
back to
any
the
other
drawing
questions?
board again. That's-
Yeah. Any other questions, feel free to get in touch with me, okay?
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Bye,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Steve.
weekend.
You guys have a good
Thanks for your
afternoon.
time.
Yeah.
You
no
too.
You
problem.
too.
While we're on the water thing, I've been talking with Dan at Pennachuck, and he and Mike are working diligently on finding some solutions to the difference in what we pump and what we bill for. And hopefully within a couple weeks, we'll have some answers there. And they have the ability, actually, I just talking to Judy, they have the ability to take out some of these meters, bring them down to their shop and make sure they're running correctly and they're calibrated correctly to see if that is a problem. They work with Mike on blow-offs and town buildings and so forth. So I think as I talk to him, we will be chasing this till the end until we find out what is going on. So that's it.
Could be anywhere between the pump and the storage tank. It's an older line.
It could be anything, but we're gonna find it one way or the other in the next month or so. Hopefully before that, but you know, things don't ever work as quickly as I'd like. So, or any of us like. So, I'm kind of used to being a dictator here, and it works differently.
Working in committee is a lot different than.
It is, yeah. So you have to just kind of move along. What else? Water, sewer, anything else on water, sewer for the workshop, guys? All right. Now, I wanted to bring up the people that went to the selectmen's meeting the other night that wanted the variance to build a garage closer to the road, and we're gonna go up and take a peek. They've decided to withdraw their request. So we won't have to go up there.
Okay.
Okay.
What else do we, there was something else.
You guys were supposed to revisit the Fadden agreement in this workshop
Oh,
from
yeah.
your,
So we, Gil wanted a chance to look at the agreement. Charlie and I already have. We just need a motion now that Gil has looked at it to sign the agreement in the office.
to
I'll
approve
make
it.
a motion to
To approve
accept
and
it
sign
as
it.
written accept it as written and to sign it in the office.
All in
A
favor?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, other things here, guys. Summer Park, should we bring those up quickly?
Why not?
You would talk, Gil, you would talk to Kevin about deputizing or whatever, someone to be a meter maid. Well, that's not possible, but somehow these towns do it. So I think we just need to find out how they, whether they're deputies or not deputies, or whether it's just employees giving out tickets. There's got to be some way around that. So this might.
Do you have any towns that we can look at to,
Plymouth? Do we know anybody? in
Littleton. I think
Littleton?
Littleton does. I think they walk Main Street too and give out tickets when the meters aren't paid.
Does anybody have a contact up there? Or?
I did talk
I spoke with Chief Smith a while ago. I'm echoing here. But it was just a conversation about something entirely different. And it was by phone. It wasn't in person. But I wouldn't mind going back up if I can pick up with them.
Actually, you know what, Judy? Now we're all echoing. Gil, I think.
Wow.
Hello?
Okay, try.
All right. Anyway. Oh. My thought is the municipal newsletter we get every day always asks questions like that. Why don't we post and ask them what other towns do and how they do it?
I can do that. Yep.
I mean, that way you get a statewide response. You know,
Plymouth typically uses retired officers. That's how they get away with it. But still have, they're still certified or something like that. I do know that's what they're using.
but do they need to be? I mean, that's my question. Do
I
they
don't
need
know
to use
that.
service? How do you do meter maids, so forth and so on? So I think that would be a great one. Has Laura
Well,
had
according to Kevin, you do have to have the basic academy certification in order for them to have the authority to ticket somebody.
Well, let's find out for sure.
Will do.
I hope you're wrong. I hope he's wrong. But
I don't think so.
it's a
but-
parking ticket. That's so. I mean, the Forest Service guys give them out. So
But they have just as much authority as police officers, if not more.
really,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Has Laura had any luck getting a hold of the Mirror Lake person that could give us some help?
She said that she would reach out to them, but right now she's tied up with HB 129, which I thought was going to be the case. So as soon as town meeting is over,
Okay.
she will get back to it.
All right.
If she has reached out, she didn't copy me yet on it.
Sure. I'm sure you would have said something anyway, but
Right.
I
I just know
want,
they're very overwhelmed right now.
just want everyone to know that we're keeping on track with this. And
Yeah, I did
Staying
email her
focused.
that day, right when we were in the meeting.
so we don't know about that or the other one.
I made another note.
Okay.
I'll check in.
Anything else?
I don't have anything. Town meeting,
Yeah, we'll be there.
yes. If you guys could show up early, we have a lot of balance to count ahead of opening the polls. That would be really helpful.
What time is that?
What time, Judy?
We open at 10. So if you guys could be here around 9,
Sure,
8:30, just in case we're counting, that would be great.
that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn into an executive session here for a
Okay, hold
personnel
on.
issue.
Yep. I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.